Hello and welcome to another episode of Wednesdays with WV. This is episode number 43. On this episode is going to be a potpourri of various things that has happened in cricket, not only in India but mostly in England. And of course, we're not being exclusive to one particular vertical. We're going to be talking about both the verticals, and I'm sure that all of you will enjoy this particular conversation.
So we'll begin with the first question itself. I mean, the talk of the town right now is the World Cup schedule being announced. We've got different venues. We thought some of the games would be coming to Chennai, like for example, the semi-finals. There was a lot of talk about that coming here, but weather considerations have taken that out. We're seeing Pakistan being given games in Ahmedabad, in Chennai. We're seeing Afghanistan playing a few games here, India playing a few games in Dharamshala. What did you make of the match allocations? Just to begin with, are you happy with how things have sort of been distributed among venues?
I think when you're looking at a lot of matches having to be scheduled, these things will happen, and India having a lot of centers which can host a World Cup game. So the allotment can be a bit challenging, but as far as the team is concerned, I think they will be all right, except for the fact that the game in Dharamshala was in New Zealand might be something that could be creating a little bit of apprehension, a little bit of anxiety even for the side because you never know how it pans out. But again, the tricky part for India in this World Cup will be that let's not forget it's more of a winter game. It's the winter times that the World Cup will be played. So the toss will have a lot of bearing on the results of the game, and also the fact that there'll be a little bit of dew around then, being winter months. The strategies will have to be different, and a little bit of luck will also come into play.
So, like you said, there's a bit of apprehension. There's a bit of some teams will feel like okay, they'll have a few couple of hard fixtures to go by. But is there any particular game, given the match, given the fixture, given the kind of matchup that it brings about, that you're particularly excited about?
I think the opening game will be very interesting. India playing Australia at Chepauk because Australia does somehow manage to cover all bases, and they play a very, very different brand of cricket. And collectively, their attitude has been really terrific from what you've seen in the WTC final, as also the test at Edgbaston. So, Australia will obviously relish playing Chepauk than any other centre, which is perhaps in a remote area, because they would prefer to have a reasonable social life as well, and also proper practice facilities too. I'm not being flippant here when I say they would like to be in a place where they would like to have some social life, because that's how they are, and that's the kind of life they lead. So they'll feel a lot more comfortable in being a major city rather than being in a remote part and not having much to do outside of cricket.
Right, absolutely. Now, you spoke about the Edgbaston Test. We'll come back to that in just a bit. But keeping with the World Cup, when we talk about all of these things, right, conditions, venues, the kind of history they've had here, matchups, this and that, we as a country love making knee-jerk reactions when it comes to things like this. So I've been looking through social media yesterday. It was part of some of the packages we were doing to see how people were reacting. And so many people were like, is it time to bring Ashwin? It's a spin friendly World Cup. Is it time to bring Ashwin back? Not asking you specifically about this one player, but what do you think about these kind of calls where people think just because one condition is a certain way, we should bring a particular kind of player back? What do you make of that?
Yes, there's been a lot of furore about Ashwin not playing in the WTC final. That's understandable because people tend to give a lot of credence, a lot of importance to the numbers. There's nothing wrong with giving importance to numbers, but a lot of things go into decision making, which means that the team management would have decided upon the 11 based on a lot of factors other than the fact that Ashwin is the number one bowler now. And as far as Ashwin coming back into the white ball format, it's not about X, Y, Z. It's about making a combination that will deliver for you as a complete unit. That's the reason why it's very critical for the team management and the selectors to be constantly involved in a dialogue, and also constantly revising their plans and assessments as well. before they sit and finally pick the spot for a major competition like World Cup. So, as far as I see it, it's not prudent to be name based. It's a lot more prudent to be uh, considering cricketers who will fill the slots and also execute the roles that is required for a team to win World Cup.
Right, got it. So when we look at it that way, I'm going to prod you one more time about the selection thing. Do you think this is kind of the time, because we make this big deal about, oh, India has not won an ICC trophy in 10 years. Is this the time to maybe make some, I don't know if the right word to say here is radical, but to make some changes that might have a little more fresh blood coming into the team or having a different kind of an approach? Or should we just stick with the plans and see where it takes us in the end of the year?
First of all, I don't think we should be harping too much, but at the same time, what is also important is that we need to discuss about India not winning the ICC trophy once in a while. The fact is that that is when the team is tested in various aspects, and that's where they are tested temperament wise, they're tested in terms of adaptability. So, that is perhaps something that all the fans will be proud of if they go on to win an ICC championship. And for that reason, it has to be discussed now and then. Again, if you are talking about wanting to be the best all the time, the proof of the pudding is also in the eating. So similarly, you also need to win ICC championships to say that I am at the top of the pile. And if you look at somebody like Australia, they've been doing really well in the ICC tournaments, and England of late has been hitting the straps well. And I think more than anything else, the fans are generally extremely disappointed because of the immense reserves of talent we have and the kind of talented players we have in the squad representing India when they play the ICC tournaments. I think that is why it's really hurting them. That's why there's a lot of talk about India not really turning it on when it matters.
Right, fair enough. And as far as turning it on when it matters is concerned, we are also seeing another team sort of just languishing through their qualifiers. With the ODI qualifiers happening right now, we've had Zimbabwe, we've had, for example, even Netherlands have some really good results, but then West Indies seems to still be having its fair share of problems. We've discussed West Indies so many times on Wednesdays with WD, but what have you made of just how they're going through their ODI qualifiers? They have a very remote mathematical chance, but what do you make of what they've done so far?
See, they've put up huge scores and still somehow managed to lose games. I think what has also happened is that they've not really thought about a lot of things. Tactically, they were found wanting, and that's perhaps cost them the critical moments in the important games there in the qualifiers. Like they get in excess of 300, they lose the game, and then even in uh, the final over that they played, obviously, they did not get their combinations right in the sense that they could have perhaps thought of somebody else bowling than other than Jason Holder, because we've seen Jason Holder conceding quite a lot of runs at the death during the IPL. So there are a lot of pointers, and they also have options that they could have considered better. And unfortunately, that is not to be, and that's costing them also because the the thing is that the entire uh, cricketing world and also the fans of the game, they are desperately hoping to see the Caribbean flavor flourish in
Yeah.
international cricket for a long time now. Unfortunately, that's not happening for whatever reasons, and some of them are really unfortunate because a team cannot be repeatedly losing after being in a position of winning matches, and also against nations which do not have the kind of experience that they have individually or collectively. And that's what is really going to hurt the fans of Caribbean cricket, be it in their own islands or be it across the world. So it's unfortunate, but it doesn't look like there's something likely to happen very soon there, because it's been a long time now that West Indies has not done anything reverse the slide that has been, probably more consistent and more constant than they would have perhaps required or they would have thought of.
Right, absolutely. Clive Lloyd, in fact, I think a couple of days back had said that the IPL comes with so much of it is attractive in terms of the money you can earn and how many opportunities you get. So West Indies needs to have something like that to draw its players back to national cricket. So that's a conversation we can probably keep having episode after episode. But
But if
going, yeah.
West Indies cannot think of any having a competition like IPL for the simple reason the money that we are going to be talking about is going to be immense. It's going to be huge. And the other big disadvantage, rather, the West Indies has is that cricket is expensive there. Travel to West Indies is expensive. Anything is expensive. The accommodation is expensive. So they need to somehow find ways to generate money and also try and keep the players well paid for them to be as proud and as keen to play together for the West Indies and bring laurels to the Caribbean islands as they did in the previous generations. But again, this debate about country versus franchisee will be never ending.
So we had two test matches, the men's and the women's Ashes. We've had one in Edgbaston, one in Nottingham. Two very interesting results also. Uh, in a Okay, first of all, just we talk about the men's test first because there's a lot to unpack about the women as well. What did you make of just this result of the Edgbaston test and just how down to the wire it went on that last day?
It is a fabulous test match. That's a great template for test cricket. If you're neutral and if you're watching a test match as pulsating as it was at Edgbaston, then you can't ask for anything more. But once again, it was interesting to see the various uh, discussions that the test match threw forth because they're talking about declaration, they're talking about one particular over. But let's not forget, it was a case of two teams playing over a period of 5 days and then playing some exciting cricket, which went down to the wire. And one team obviously had to win. So it's very difficult to pinpoint one particular over or one particular decision in a test match that had so many elements to it. It had so many twists and turns. But nonetheless, the thing is that everybody should be happy that two teams really played in the same vein and they are looking to get a result. And that they achieved that result on a flat track is something incredible. And the means to the end was brilliant because there was a lot of drama, there's a lot of excitement, it had everything. So I don't think I'll even sort of reflect on that test match. I would probably equate it to a James Bond movie. When you watch a James Bond movie, you watch it, you enjoy it while you're inside the theater, you walk out, you don't reflect on it. And then you look forward to the next James Bond movie. That's the way I would probably sum it up.
Fair enough. I was just going to ask you, my next question to you was going to be where did England lose that match? Was it the declaration or that 14-run over?
No, it's the batting of the lower order Aussie batting lineup. That's where the difference was because if you look at it, Carey and Cummins got runs in the first innings, and then again Cummins when the situation was really tight, he ensured that they went past the mark. So which means that you cannot really fault the declaration because the declaration paved the way for a possible result, and that was a good declaration. In fact, if you ask me, and the way the Australians batted in the first innings, I think that was really what set up that fantastic test match. If they were to concede a lead of about 100 runs, then the test match would have perhaps had a different script.
Right, absolutely. So you've actually taken the words out of my mouth here. So I basically wanted to prod you about what you just spoke about, the depth that the Australian side has, the way the tail managed to really take the game to the English people. Um, Not many teams have that kind of I don't know if you call it bench strength or just the way the depth sort of has all round abilities to do both when demanded, right? So what do you think? How do you think this Australian side has sort of emerged as such a gun team in Test cricket?
Historically, if you look at it, I think it's basically due to the cricketing culture in Australia. It's not individual based, it's team based, and everybody needs to play according to the team's plans. And no individual is bigger than the team, or no individual is bigger than the objectives of the system or the fraternity or what cricket Australia wants to achieve. So it's a non negotiable thing. If you want to play for Australia, You bloody well play in the interest of the side. You contribute towards what the team wants you to do, and that's when you stay back. And you cannot talk about the bench strength or plethora of talent for the simple reason they have, only so many states out of which you get those cricketers. It's how they harness the talent that's available there and how they encourage them, how they motivate them, how they sort of make them pliable to what the system wants is the key here. Because if you're talking about 7 or 8 states, you're talking about close to 100, 150 cricketers. So you got to try and utilize the resources that are available in the best manner possible. I think along those lines, Australia have done it extraordinarily well over a period of time. It's always a case of a cricketer finding it difficult to break into the side, but once he breaks into the side, it's very difficult for him to come out of the side unless he performs very, very poorly. I think that's what has really, made them achieve as much as they have done. And I think once uh, that kind of a culture has been established over decades, I think it's only going to be difficult to veer away from that culture and do something which is alien to you.
Right, absolutely. In terms of stockpile of talent, I think we can agree that England also has a system that constantly produces talent, but they've had issues in that pace department. Like we saw in Edgbaston, James Anderson, in fact, very vocally said also, this is the kind of pitch that I'm going to get, that I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything else in this series. And we see Vokes is sitting out, Archer sitting out. The entire sort of burden ended up on Broad and Robinson. Where do you think England can sort of go to sort of sort out their pace problems?
They have to first of all realize that Broad and Anderson can't go on forever. There will come a time when they themselves might say, okay, enough is enough. Or there will come a time when the team management will want to replace them with younger legs and younger blokes. But do they have reasonable replacements waiting in the wings is something that is not known as yet. Yes, we have the Robinsons, we have the Woods, and we have the Stokes who can bowl a bit and stuff like that. But once again, the tricky part here is that you cannot really expect two new bowlers to fit into the big boots of Broad and Anderson because they've been doing extraordinarily well for England over a long period of time. But I think they missed a trick in not really kind of grooming somebody a couple of years ago. If they had started the process, then I think the transition might have been a lot more easier than it will be when both of them are obviously not in the thick of things.
Right, absolutely. When we talk about the English side, and I know I didn't mention this earlier, but then I think we have to sort of also speak about Joe Root. And there's so much ease with which he's batting now. He seems to have bought into this whole Bazball concept of really accelerating and going about his cricket, right? What did you make of just how you saw him bat, perhaps, over the two innings at Edgbaston?
He's a fantastic catalyst. The England baseball rather, is all about Joe Root, if you ask me, in a way, because he gives you the confidence that he will hold one end up if they run into a little bit of trouble in trying to score quickly and lose wickets. Now he is providing that confidence for others to play the way that they want to play. And now what he's done is that he's also trying to equip himself to fit into the theory of baseball. And he is employing those methods, which is considered alien because we've not seen Joe Root bat like that before. He was the typical Yorkshire prim and proper opener. Otherwise, if he had tried to play like this before baseball, I'm sure that somebody like Jeffrey Boycott would have said, "The lad, you're not a Yorkshire man. Your batting is rubbish."
Absolutely.
So what is happening here is that both of them are trying to bind each other's ideas. Both of them are trying to blend in well here. The conventional school of cricket and also the let's say the uh, outrageous, that is for the purists, outrageous school of cricket. Both are trying to blend and meet halfway and carry on whatever it is that they want to achieve in a very smooth fashion.
Right. So we have this fabulous top four that we talk about in world cricket, right? Virat, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, Steve Smith. Where do you think Joe Root sort of stands in terms of how he's innovated himself to just stay up with the times, to keep up with the kind of talents that are in his own team or the opponents that he goes against? Where would you put him in that quartet?
He's as good as anybody. And it's just that we've not seen much of him in the IPL, or we do not really sort of see him doing heroics in the T20 format. But he's chosen to be somebody who wants to thrive, who wants to perform, and who wants to be seen more as a fantastic Test cricket batter. And he's achieved that. I think now what has happened is that he was perhaps a wound spring in a clock all these years. So he was programmed to becoming one of the best the world has seen in Test cricket. Now that I think he's achieved that to the extent that he thinks he needed to achieve it, he is now unwinding himself and trying to enjoy his cricket by conforming or probably converting himself into the typical modern day cricketer of being able to play the ramp shot, the lap shot, and stuff like that. So I think you'll have to really appreciate him for uh, planning his career out and executing all his plans to his satisfaction, and in the process achieving whatever it is he had set out to do. Every cricketer will have his own goals. I think he's achieved his goals um, more or less that he set out for himself. And now I think it's the time he's going to say, okay, I'm going to have fun, lads. Get on with it. So, like we have that famous line from Sunny Gavaskar when he scored a quicker 50 than Srikanth. He went and told him, "See, Sri, it's easy to bat like you." So, I think Root is perhaps trying to not say that. He's trying to sort of show to the world that he can do what the others are doing in modern day cricket.
Right, absolutely. So sort of when you talk about people like Joe Root or even the women's test that I want to speak about next, one concept that we kept bringing up was Bazball. This Bazball rhetoric went over to the women's side also because the pace of the game was really quick. The batters were going about it at maybe like an ODI pace almost when they were going about their innings. Uh, there's been a lot of op-eds written in the past week. Some have called this Bazball thing a cult. Some have said, why are you trying to innovate at the cost of actually giving away a result, right? Maybe it would have been easier to have a draw than actually give Australia an outright win. Where do you sort of see these conversations in the bigger picture of Test cricket? Because this gave us one really exciting game. We had action right down till the fifth day. It could have been anybody's game right until those final couple of hours also. So where do you see this rhetoric surrounding baseball? How valid do you think it is, perhaps?
You'll always have these phrases coined when something happens in English cricket. This is nothing new. But let's not forget the fact that this kind of cricket or this brand of cricket was played by the West Indies in the 80s. What do you think Viv Richards was doing? What do you think Clive Lloyd was doing? What do you think Gordon Greenidge was doing? Gordon Greenidge has got a double hundred in a day to win a test match for his side on the final day. And of course, Australians have always played aggressive brand of cricket when they had a settled team. Now, this is something that they've coined because England were always kind of very conservative, and draw was something that they cherished. And now, what has happened is that they are looking to win after Baz has taken over the English side. They're looking to win even at the expense of running into the risk of losing a test match in trying to win. So that's fine. It's something that has become a norm these days because of the younger generation playing more of result oriented formats, a lot of it, in fact. So that is obviously slowly coming to Test cricket as well. Yes, we cannot really kind of criticize about the strategy that is being employed by England now. Now, as to what can be sustainable over the next 15 years is something nobody knows, because nobody knows what the future holds in store for you. But as for now, their sudden change of strategy, the way they've upped the ante, is worked for them because they have ended up winning more than they have lost. So you have to appreciate them for what they've done, and they've kind of revolutionized the way Test cricket is played, and it's also made for a lot of entertainment rather, and everybody loves it. Imagine at one stage there was a lot of criticism with regard to Test cricket, that it's slow and you don't get the results. What's the point in watching 5 days and not getting a result, and it's boring, and equated with the T20 format where you get to see a result and it's so exciting. People are comparing the wrong formats. So, but now that they started to show that this kind of approach can be adopted in Test cricket, and they have done extraordinarily well, and they produce good results for themselves. I think you'll have to appreciate and say, maybe, okay, lads, there's a lesson for all of us. We'll also try and see if we can live up to what it is that you are trying to do. And that's exactly what Australia did. They matched up to them and they beat them in their own game at Edgbaston.
Right, absolutely. In a lot of ways, looking across the aisle as well, the English women's team and the Australian women's team had a very similar kind of a test match. We finally had a 5-day test after a very, very long time. And in a lot of ways, there was a double century and a 10-wicket haul on one side, there was a century and a 12-wicket haul on the other side. And still, Australia managed to do more things right and then actually take the win their way. What did you make of that match? It was, I mean, very seesawing in a lot of parts of the game, and then finally we saw Australia really win that. What did you make of that game? Your first impressions before we actually go into what England sort of messed up.
Fabulous game. And I think they couldn't have served a more stronger notice for Test cricket to become a regular part of their FTP. Because I tell you what, they played a hard brand of cricket and exciting at the same time brand of cricket, and they played it over 5 days, which means they've shown that they are fit, they are strong enough, and they can also uh, be given the opportunity to play this format on a regular basis. What more can you ask for? You were looking to sort of get another dose of Bazball in a week's time. But what happens is these women have come there and they've shown, okay, hold on, guys, don't forget us. We are there. We can do what they did, as well as them as well. So I think it was a fabulous test match, and because of what they did, it tends to make you believe that Test cricket is on a roll now.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this all the endorsement that women's cricket needs to just stick with the 5-day tests once and for all?
Absolutely no doubt. Absolutely no doubt at all. It should be encouraged because, see, you may not get all the test matches played in the same vein, because the other countries will probably have to get a hang of it, or maybe they might probably come out and do exactly what these two sides have done. Who knows? But unless until they are given that opportunity, there's no way you can assist them, or you can perhaps be judgmental about it.
So is multi-format series the way to go forward then for women's cricket at least, so that different countries get a taste of it? You have the opportunity to at least add it into your rosters when you're traveling or when you're hosting people coming in from other
Yeah, you
countries.
must. I think you must, because whenever you've seen Test cricket played in the last couple of years, be it India versus England, be it India versus Australia, they were exciting games. The quality of cricket was good, and the pace of play was good as well. And it was intriguing more than anything else. What I would like to see in a Test match is that if there's a little bit of cat and mouse game involved in it, and you had a lot of cats and mouses to
Yeah.
witness, because the uh, the ebbs and flows in a test match. When India went to England and drew the test match, when they almost put it past Australia when they played an away test match, and now this particular test match, it was fantastic. It's not a case of test cricket looking very boring when women play. They played excellent cricket.
Absolutely. One part of that excellent cricket also was actually Alisa Healy, which until the last day we didn't know that she had fractures in both her hands and she was playing through it. She managed to 50, which ended up being very crucial for Australia to put up the kind of total that they did. Now, you as a coach have planned and played against her. So She was elevated, although temporarily. I'm sure Meg Lanning will be back whenever she's able to. But what did you make of that elevation? What do you make of her as a leader? I've asked you this, I think, during the WPL as well, but in the national setup, it's a completely different ball game, isn't it?
Yes, she can be bubbly and she can perhaps be one who will want the team to play aggressive brand of cricket. But again, she's got a huge disadvantage in the sense that after watching Meg Lanning handle the side and the things that she's done on the field, people are going to obviously compare anybody when Meg Lanning is not available to her in terms of captaincy, to her in terms of the majestic way she handles the side and the calm that she sort of displays. So it's going to be a difficult proposition for anybody. Maybe if Alisa Healy leads for another 3 years on the trot, then perhaps you can see what it is that she did better than Lanning, or what it is that she did differently from Lanning. So until such time, it's very difficult. A stopgap arrangement and a captain providing a little bit of a relief for Meg Lanning is something that is not going to really sort of gel, for the simple reason that people will always be talking about Meg Lanning, Meg Lanning. So I don't think if I were given the captaincy as a stopgap arrangement for Meg Lanning, I would say with folded hands, no, look for somebody else, because it's a battle you're never going to win. It's not something that is an exciting prospect.
Thank God she won the test match. Just for that, perhaps. All right. With that said, this Australian side, this England side, these are two teams that India themselves are going to be facing later on this year, early next year in tests. The last time we played a test match in England, we had Mithali, we had Julan. Both had their merits to add to this team. In fact, Julan was one of the most economical of bowlers, despite her being on the disadvantaged side of the age bracket. So when you go into a test match now, we're seeing the kind of role these two teams are there on, and then we see our team, which is kind of transitioning in this format at the moment. Are there any concerns that you might have? Anything, any notes that we can take?
I think India will do well if they play on a good wicket. They should not have any preconceived ideas. They should not be made to feel that they may not be up to it, because it's a case of those girls being allowed to play the kind of cricket they know to play. And if they're just made to play, I'm sure they'll do extraordinarily well, because I don't think you lack anything. This side, the bunch of cricketers you have now, they're quite capable of holding on their own, and they do possess enough talent. There's all round talent as well. Yes, you will miss a couple of cricketers like Mithali and Julian, because you've been used to seeing them over a period of 20 years. And experience is something that will always be invaluable, and it's also something that you can't go and buy in a shop. So, that being the case, you will miss them. But uh, on the other hand, what also needs to be thought about is the fact that this crop can really do a very good job, because you got a real good batters, and you also have got a couple of medium pacers who are really good, and spinners you don't have to ask, because we got a lot of spinners who are really good. So with all these ingredients available in the system, I think we should not have any worries at all.
Right, absolutely. I guess our instant worry, or the one that's closest, is to figure out when they're playing in Bangladesh. They've got a series lined up, and I think they're all still in the NCA. Any thoughts about the delay as such? Like, we don't know when they're going to be playing.
Have you people not got used to the fact that, regardless of when you tune in the television, the program will only come when it has to be seen. It will only be telecast when it is being announced, at the time it is being announced. But I think, see, forget this kind of light-hearted remark here. But I think what is important is that I think the girls would have been told as to when the dates are going to be. When they're going abroad, they'll definitely have some kind of notice, even if it's not a year ahead of the series. They would have some kind of notice, because a lot of logistics is involved in this, in a foreign trip. So that's the reason. Yes, as to when it is announced to the press, I think of late things have been done in a certain way, and by around this time, I think all of you should have gotten used to it.
Fair enough. Do you make anything of the gap that we've had, sir? Because they've played the WPL and then there's just been like a huge sort of a break, and that's allowed them to do other things, of course. Like some of them have gone on after the WPL. We've had that emerging Asia Cup. They've done well there. Um, Different opportunities to maybe go and play some domestic cricket as well. We've had Railways having their inter-department thing, and so many of our cricketers have gone and played there as well. But do you make anything of this long international gap? Is it something to be worried about per se, or was it just required after the kind of season they had last year?
I think that's how their FTP is. The fresh cycle of FTP. I think that's how it's been scheduled, and there's nothing much you can do about it. But maybe they could have perhaps sent a India A side on a tour of England, because you cannot miss out on the English summer if you are trying to provide experience for the younger lot. I think this summer might have been the English summer might have been an opportunity for sending an A team to provide the girls some experience. And with India playing test matches, I think the younger lot need to be given a lot of opportunities, a lot of game time, so that they become a lot more aware of the variables that they will encounter at the top level.
Right? Absolutely. So those were the questions we had for you this time. Nice seeing you on this side of the aisle for a change, as opposed to asking questions week after week. But because the domestic season has also started, I think we'll have a lot more interesting conversations to have over the next couple of weeks, right? We'll be watching that carefully. We'll have the TNPL also to discuss once that's done early next month. That should be a fun kind of conversation to have, I suppose.
And there it was. We touched upon all the major things that happened in the world of cricket in the recent past. And if there's something that we missed out on, kindly do let us know. And for those who are joining us for the first time, subscribe to this channel, press the like button, and press whatever buttons there are to be pressed. And for those who've been with us all this while, please come back regularly, providing your feedback, and because that is important, as we need to know what it is you look forward to watching and what it is you need us to do in the future episodes. So until I catch up with you next time, be good and stay safe.